Well said, and we'll start with Iran because that is the latest news. You have called for Trump to support the Iranians. Now, specifically, would you like them to do another bombing raid? Do you feel that they should send supplies to the Iranians? If you could just detail what kind of support you would like to see President Trump give.
I want to explain that I'm not a bloodthirsty warmonger or something like this, or I'm not sitting in Vienna trying to mobilize American troops in order to get in harm's way. It's not like this, yeah. But while I'm very grateful that the New Zealand guys were coming to liberate us in 2 world wars, to my best knowledge, and I know more Australia. Australia has also delivered a lot of material now for the Ukrainians. Thank you very much. Yeah. But in principle, if you have an entrenched tyranny, like somebody who is really very dangerous and has a lot of weapons, somebody has to help the people to be safe from the guns of the regime. And who can that be? Obviously, the guns are under control of the regime. Mr. Khamenei and his kind of lunatic religious dictatorship, by coincidence of history and the help of the KGB, has developed in 79 into power, and they have all the money, they have all the power leverages, and they have an absolute dominance of control of weapons and of brutality. So who can really defend the people? They are rising 22 times. I counted the number of revolutions in Iran now since 79. 22 times in 47 years, the people are up and protesting that they don't want to live under that conditions. But 22 times the Iranians kill the people, they execute them, they hang them, they torture them, and they have all the big guns. So that's why I call for America to intervene and to neutralize the big guns of the Tehran's tyrant. And it's very simple. You go in with your tomahawks, you go in with your rockets, you bunker bust the military headquarters, you bombard the media center. And if the Americans don't know how to do that, then the Israelis should do that, because it must be done, and the Israelis have the competences. They did it in July. They have basically had the Iranian regime on the edge of collapse, but then Trump has not allowed them to go further. And let's see what he will do now. Every morning I wake up and I hope that he has already intervened, but Trump is notoriously confused and bad advised, and a little bit volatile in his decision making. And so my call is intervention, yes.
Well, Trump, I think, he's reserved because of the last couple of times America intervened in the Middle East. What happened with Gaddafi? A simple airstrike took out his military, but Libya ended up far worse than it was under Gaddafi's rule with Assad.
No, please, no.
Oh, okay.
This is real propaganda. All these countries America has liberated are now much better than they ever was. I know very well Bosnia. I know very well Kosovo. I mean, they are really very good countries now and much better. But also the more complicated countries like Iraq, it's much better than it ever was under Saddam Hussein. The numbers are striking. 26 million people were living at the liberation point. Now, 20 years on, we have 47 million people. And why they double the population? Because of security, prosperity, stability, and decency and freedom, most of all. When it comes to Libya, Gaddafi was a terrible, terrible dictator. He was torturing, raping his people. He was having one of the richest countries in the world because Libya is soaked with oil, and he was really abusing the world into sending terrorists everywhere, killing innocent airplane passengers. He was an absolute disaster. And what happened afterwards, after he was luckily killed, is that we have created a little bit of chaos, because the whole world was intervening, and not only America, but we gave one part of it to the Russians. And the thing is, if you just bomb something and then you don't care for it, that's wrong. You must really nation build it into a decent country. And you have to stay with the countries like Americans are staying up to now in Germany and in Japan. Have you seen them leaving? It's
No,
80
no.
years now. And we are on the good side now. We are no longer Nazis, yeah, but the Americans, in case, they watch us just in case. And we should have gone into Libya completely. Like in Iraq, there's also, until recently, there were American troops, and I think there are still some, or at least they are advising. And in Libya, the problem was that this completely failed Obama. He was very reluctant to regime change Libya, and then he didn't stay, missing in action.
Yeah,
And then the Russians went in.
well, actually, that was going to be one of my other questions, but I'll ask it now. With We know that when Obama pulled U.S. troops out of Iraq, it ended up giving the vast majority of the control, one, to the Ayatollah in Iran, but also to China. And this is something Trump talked about 10 years ago when he first ran. Did the same thing happen in Libya, where America's enemies ended up benefiting more than America itself when Gaddafi was killed?
Yeah, remember the situation in Iraq. America liberated this country within some weeks. I think it was within 4 weeks. In April, I remember 9th of April 2003, Baghdad was liberated. Yeah? So, and then of course came all this backslash and the difficulties. Yeah? But then it was the surge, and Iraq was basically pacified and was put on a good path. It is now. But then Obama took all the troops, and no surprise, what happened? Other malign actors took over the north of Iraq, like the ISIS. What needed to be done? To come back later in 1718 and to destroy the ISIS. Yeah? So why don't you stay immediately? Why don't you turn, it's an investment, I understand, and you have all this left-wing criticism of imperialism, but it works much better if you do it like in Kosovo or in Germany or in Japan. You come, liberate, you help to reconstruct, and you help the nation to develop. You build new institutions, new democratic institutions, and you never leave. Much better. Because these countries need some support, and it's not so easy to build democracies and market economies. It's not a 2 years fix, drop a bomb and leave. No, democracy is a generational effort. It takes a long time. It took a long time in America, it took a long time in Western Europe, and in Libya and in Iraq, it takes a long time as well. So you need to stay, and you need to help, and you need to provide outside security, and you need to avoid that Russia, China, or the Iran is getting into the mix, because then it's getting messy.
Why do you think this protest has built up as big as it has?
Look, there is many reasons why this protest is so decisive now in history. It depends, of course, with the defeat of Iran in the 12-day war this summer in 2025. Because it has lost a lot of credibility, and the people are less afraid of a regime which is so obviously losing the air superiority over its own airspace, and where key regime supporters are taken out by strategic drone strikes. This has already shattered the self-confidence of the elite of Iran in the eyes of the people as well, and that's one big thing. The other big thing is obviously that the economic situation of Iran has deteriorated under our sanctions, and the whole chaos which Putin does in the north of Asia and in Ukraine is of course not helping, because normally these malign regimes are helping each other. But our strategy to defeat Putin is to reduce the oil price internationally, and that is of course hurting as well the Iranian revenues. Because if the Iranians live mainly of oil, which they sell to China, and China can now buy a lot of cheap Russian oil, which they have to dump on the market because of it's sanctioned, and then of course they are less interested in Iranian oil, and the revenue structure of the Iranian government is very much depending on that, and so they basically lose the main source of income, and that's two of the main reasons why it's now. But it's also that regimes which are tyrannies depend very much on the legitimacy of the top dog, and the top dog in that sense is Mr. Khamenei, and he is very old, so there is the question of succession. So it's also in the eyes of the people, it's very, very, very fragile system. And additionally, it's a broader trend that the whole, from the Arab Spring onwards, everybody in the Arab world, everybody in the world has a smartphone. They can see what's going on. They have relatives in Europe and in America. They know what freedom is. They know what living standards are possible. They see, for example, in Iraq, it's going much better. They see, of course, everything else in the world via their telephones. And then they say, why exactly are we, the young people of Iran, living in a medieval dictatorship? And they don't want to do that. And that's very normal. And then they are ready to risk their life to change it. And that's very courageous. And we, from New Zealand to Australia, from Europe to America, should support them. And the only one with the tools of power to stop tyrants is, of course, America. Because with all respect, the French, the British, or the New Zealanders, we don't have the powerful tools to stop him. We don't have the bunker busting tools. We cannot launch airplanes from whatever, South Carolina, to drop bombs on Iran. This is simply beyond our power projection opportunities and possibilities. So it's up to the leader of the free world to do it. And he is now Mr. Trump. He is famously erratic, but famously also from time to time ready to act. Yeah, differently than Joe Biden, who was really sleeping in many ways. So this combination of factors is there at the moment. And so the Iranians are not so sure if they can do a Tiananmen, because when they really roll in the tanks into Tehran and mass slaughter the people, like the Chinese have done it in 89, and then of course they give Trump the carte blanche to bomb them very hard. And he would probably do it because luckily they have no nukes. So that's also the big issue in the background, because if Trump is not intervening again now, and the Iranians are killing a lot of people, executing thousands and thousands of people, and definitely will do the nukes, yeah, because they have then had enough as well. So Trump is really a fool. If he doesn't intervene now, he will have created a nuclear Iran, and nobody will ever be able to intervene again. So he definitely has to do it. And it's really a rendezvous with history, which he has now. If he fails this one, his whole presidency will fail, and he will go down in shambles. But I think, not only the pizza index in the Pentagon, but in general, what I hear is that he will intervene.